Okay, looks like it's 12 o'clock. That's Tim, by the way. That's Tim. Tim's a cactus. So we thought we would just make sure everyone knew that this was the right place to be. Morning, well, afternoon, I guess wherever you are. Good evening, good night from Iowa. Hello, Kate from Texas. Orlando, London, Ontario, Canada. Hi, Tim. Hi, Christy, says Tim. Hi, Christy, says Tim. Hello, good morning. From Blighty. Hello, Jim Marshall. Wow. How you doing, mate? Hope you're all good, sheltering happily in place. Good morning, good morning, good morning. New Jersey, woohoo. Hi, Julie. Encinitas, that's not very far away. Hi, Matt. Lincoln, Nebraska. Hi, everybody. Good morning from Ojai. Yeah, we're all jealous. Good Lord, it's beautiful up there. Husker Mike, hi. Hi, Bowling Alley. Raymundo, hello, Raymundo. Beautiful Burbank, yes. Laguna Beach, good Lord. Lucky Denver, Newmarket, Maryland. Hi, Chicago. Borderman 2, 2018. It's the Gantt Travel Virtual Team. All right, hi, Gantt Travel Virtual Team. And Pam from Minneapolis, sunny here, glad there's no snow. Beaufort, South Carolina, bet that's beautiful this time of year. All right, Detroit, hello, Pacino Hills. Thank you everybody for coming again to our Friday Live. We had 25,000 people actually have taken standout assessments since we started last week. So clearly there's a lot of desire for really understanding who you are and the best of you and the best of the people that you love and care about. We had a ton of questions last week, and Christy, thank you for taking all those questions down. And we'll try and answer obviously some of them today. We did see a lot of questions about relationships, a lot of questions about how we can use people's strengths and our understanding of people's strengths to figure out how we should connect with one another. So next week, we thought we'll make next week's one live specifically on relationships, whether the relationships are your love relationship or your team relationships or your work relationships. How can knowing about someone's strengths really know or help you know how to build a stronger and tighter connection with the people that you love and the people that you care about and rely on? There were also some questions about the 9. So I thought what I would do to start off with is just go down through those 9 strengths roles and then take any questions that you may have in the course of that. So for those that are just like, what the heck are the 9? Advisor. First question advisor asks is always, what is the best thing to do? So advisors are thinking about always what is effective, what works. We love you because there are no hidden agendas with you. You make decisions based upon what will be most effective. That's what's so beautiful about you. Connectors. First quick question for connectors is, whom or what can I connect with, whom or what? Now, this isn't about mingling. It's not about being great at a party. It's about seeing the detail of a person or the detail of an idea and getting those two things connected for the betterment of both. We rely on you because you're resourceful in that way. Creators. That's me. That's my lead strength role. First question creators always ask is, what do I understand? Your first question is always interior. What do I understand? And you need time to process that, as I played out yesterday on my video about that. Equalizers. Shout outs to all the equalizers on the phone. They probably showed up early. Questions for you obviously are, what is the right thing to do? You think of the world as a moral place where if you make a commitment, you follow through and you do what you say you're going to do. And if you can't for some reason do it, then you don't apologize. Oh, sorry. You don't make excuses. You make it right. What is the right thing to do? That's an equalizer way of looking at the world. Influences. Influences, you always thinking about movement to action. So first question for an influencer is always, how do I move you to act? I think about consequences, repercussions, what's next in terms of moving you to action. Pioneers, first question for a pioneer is always, what's new? What's next? What's around the corner? You think the world is a friendly place, so you want to go around the corner because it'll probably be fine and fun and great. And we lean into you because you lean into ambiguity in a way that's like, yeah. Providers. Provider's first question is, as you look around, you think, how can I catch the people? How can I care about the people and make sure that you're provided for and cared for? You are emotionally intelligent as you look to the people around you in terms of their emotional state and feelings. Stimulate is a little different. Stimulate is, how can I lift you up? How can I raise the energy? How can I raise the energy? You can't help it. You're just instinctively aware of the energy of an email, of the energy of a room, the energy of a phone call. You're just instinctively aware of, how do I lift it up? And then, of course, teachers, their first question is, how can I grow? How can you grow? How can we all grow and get better? We think of people as a work in progress. You ask lots of questions as a teacher, because you can't really think about how a person can grow unless you can know where they're at. You can't grow unless you can know where you're at. So lots of questions. So those are those 9 strengths roles. If you wanted to know what the detail of each one is, as some of you probably are seeing, I've been putting up every day, for the next 9 days, I guess, each day, one 60-second clip, if you like, on each of the strengths roles, and then a deep dive into advisor, into connector. Yesterday we did creator, tomorrow will be equalizer. So if you really want to dive in, we do that every single day to help you really understand what these particular strengths roles are all about. Okay, let's be done with that. Let's have a look at some of the questions that you might be getting. Teachers, how can I grow? Yes, Marcus, can you share the email to get more information on teen and standout assessment you mentioned last week? We'll reach out to you. So because what I said last week is that we're building a standout student assessment for teens. You actually have to validate it, though, so that each scenario in the assessment fits teens. And by teens, I mean like 12 to 18. So we're in the middle of doing that now. We will be releasing it in October. We will be giving it away so that you can figure out the particular strengths of your children and if you're a teacher, for the students in your class. And reach out to Team Marcus if you want to know a bit more about what that is, and we'll tell you sort of all of the updates on that. Is there value, Andy's asking, is there value in better understanding your ranked number 3 and ranked number 4? A number of you asked that. Yes is the short answer to that question. The whole point of this whole approach is that everybody's brain is wired differently. No one's ever had the brain that you have. No one's brain is wired in exactly the same way that yours is. So what we're trying to do with the standout assessment is figure out what are the places where you have, in a sense, the thickest branches of synaptic connections. What do you lead with? And yes, number 1 and number 2 are a fantastic place to start. Number 3, though, that's super interesting. I mean, Michelle's number 3, Michelle's sitting right here, is creator. So she's got connector, stimulator, creator. It does make sense for her to dive into creator, really understand what that is. Because she's going to be a little different than a person who goes connector, stimulator, influencer. That's a different energy. So yeah, look at start with 1 and 2. But look at 3. That will affect the way in which you play out your strengths in the world. How should I think about those strengths that are not my top 2 roles, but that sound like me? Well, somebody else asked whether or not you can actually learn to lead according to according to number 9 and number 8. And here's the point. You've got all of them. On some level, you've got all of them. You can do all of them. The question that we were trying to answer with standout is, what do you lead with? What do people hook onto about you? So probably the best thing for you to do on the back end of it, the best thing to do is to take your number 1 role and read it and underline everything that really sings to you, really hits you. Or scribble no, like Michelle did that, scribbling no, and some of this stuff in connector. And then do the same with number 2 and underline everything that you're seeing there that you really resonate with. And then if there's stuff that you don't, write no. And look at it for yourself. And then what I would strongly suggest you do is sit down with someone you know who cares about you or loves you and show them what you've reacted to. Because they may look at the no's like I did with Michelle and went, whoa. No, that you don't understand. That is you. That is how you come across. That is how we make sense of you. So I would suggest you do that, because at the very least it will be such a beautiful, rich conversation about who you are and how you come across to people.
Samantha, you could say hi, Samantha.
Hi, Samantha.
She asked, how to attach strengths to career?
So Samantha, hi Samantha. How do you attach strengths to career? Well, I think it's page 11 in your report, your 14-page report, says your ideal career. Now we need to be tread carefully on this, because it's not as though there are certain roles that necessitate you doing a certain career. It's not as though all influencers should be salespeople. That's not the way that we've built it. It's not as though all teachers should be teacher. Nikki, who's in our family, he was a teacher for 37 years. But his teacher was number 7 on his, so he's like, wait, what? But of course, the standout roles don't tell you what job to have. What they'll tell you is how you will excel in the job you have. So if Nikki was, as he was, an advisor was one of his, he's the sort of person who will, as a teacher, he will orient himself toward those kids that are struggling, the kids that really are the problem-challenging kids, because that's an advisor approach to things. The standout roles will help you know how you will excel at whatever role you've picked. If you've got provider teacher and you're in a sales role, what provider and teacher will tell you is how you will excel in a sales role. And so that's why at the end of the report, if you've looked, at the end of the report, we took sort of 4 big chunks of work: leading, managing, sales, and service. And we tried to play out, how will you win in sales? How will you win as a manager? So think about standout in that context.
Can I ask
Yeah.
P.A. Gary? Say hi,
Hi, P.A. Gary.
Is it unproductive to have a team with similar roles?
Okay, so we've had this question a lot. So we had it last week, have it this week, I bet we'll have it again. Is it unproductive to have a team with lots of different strength roles?
No,
well,
she's saying, is it unproductive if they're all the same?
If they're all the same.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, sorry. Is it unproductive to have a team with all the same strengths roles? Well, the cliche or the theory would be that the best teams are highly diverse, because then you get different points of view. Well, Dr. Mary Hayes has run this in a number of different ways. Hi, Mary. I'm sure you're on. We can actually answer that question. It doesn't turn out that bears out in the research. I know it sounds good, but there are highly productive, highly engaged teams where pretty much everybody has the same strengths roles. And there are really productive, really engaged teams where everyone has different roles. It's not as though the data bears out that highly diverse teams outperform highly homogeneous teams. That is a nice thing to say. The data doesn't bear it out. What does seem to be true about teams is that when each team member knows about one another, there's awareness about who's got particular strengths that they bring, then awareness is the accelerant to more productivity, more collaboration, more innovation, more performance. Some teams function really, really, really well and have everybody basically play the same game. They have the same strengths roles. But everyone, that's how we know about each other, and therefore we know how to maximize each other. Everything on teams is about awareness. Do I know who's on this team and what I can rely on them for? So tremendously important. I'll take some more questions here. Hi from Puerto Rico. Hi.
A bunch of people are asking about strengths changing over time.
Strengths changing over time. So the whole point of standout is that we're actually trying to measure those things about you that are enduring. I talked last time about states and traits. Traits are enduring. States change. Skills and knowledge are states. Your mood is a state of mind. We can change states about you. We can teach you new knowledge. We can teach you new skills. But what we're trying to measure with standout is those things about you that are enduring and that you take with you over time and across situations. And so what we're getting at are those things about you that are really grooved in you. That doesn't mean you can't grow. It actually means that you're going to learn and grow the most in those areas where you already have the greatest strength. We actually know that from neuroscience. You grow more synaptic connections in those parts of your brain where you have the most pre-existing synaptic connections, which really means you'll grow most, you'll learn most, you excel most in your areas of greatest natural strength. That doesn't mean that over time you don't become more wise about yourself, less defensive about yourself, and you might acquire new skills. But in terms of your standout roles, those are going to stay the same across time. Now, some of you were asking, well, I took it twice. Should I take it twice? Should I take it 3 times? You can take it twice. You can take it 3 times. But the first time you take is the best time, because the first time you take it, you have an unprepared mind. You don't know what the scenarios are. You haven't got your 14-page report yet. The first time's the best, unless you were distracted in the middle of it. Unless you sort of weren't taking it seriously. Unless you were walking, through an underpass or something and you couldn't hear any of the answers or something. If you thought you were totally distracted and you weren't taking it seriously, okay, then take it again. But if you took it seriously the first time and you got your results and now you're like, I want to get different ones or something, then I wouldn't take it again. Instead, I would do that thing where you go through the definitions and identify what you really resonate with and what you might even reject. Share it with someone you know that cares about you and you know really trusts you, or that you trust, and get them to react to it. Expand. I mean, if you didn't see this, Michelle and I did this a couple of nights ago, and she's, super informed about all of this, and we had kind of not an argument, but just kind of wow, she thought that isn't her as a connector, and I'm like, and a lot of people that know Michelle, I think, would say the same thing. It's like, no, you do this all the time. I think if you do that, if you take the time to really dive into your top 2, you may well find it's like the blue Volvo thing, where once you've thought about a blue Volvo, you can't help but see blue Volvos everywhere. Once you really start thinking about your top 2, you might well find that your life speaks to you in that language now all the time. And you'll start to see so many occasions where you're actually like, oh my word, I do that all the time. And then of course you'll be able to take charge of it and actually deploy it or contribute it more deliberately. Just take some more questions here.
Kathy, if you want to say hi to Kathy.
Hey, Kathy.
She said, how do I get my manager to better understand that weaknesses shouldn't be the focus?
So Kathy said, how do I best help my manager understand that my weaknesses shouldn't be the focus? The best way to do it, Kathy, is performance. Don't even talk about strengths and weaknesses to start with. When you're talking to your manager, what you should be doing is going, what are the outcomes that you want from me? What's the performance you want from me? And then the question you can have with your manager is, well, what's my most effective way to get that performance? If you can start talking about performance, then you can start talking about how can I best achieve that performance? So often, we could probably talk about this next week too. So often managers are just looking for something, they're just trying to, some managers are just bad, but some managers are just trying to be helpful. They're just trying to do something and feel useful. And the simplest way to feel useful is to say, hey, Kathy, well, you didn't do that. I mean, you did that, fine, but whatever. But that, ooh. And so it's almost a function of the manager trying to do something. And if you can help that manager go, look, I'm not going to be you. I'm going to be me. If you want this performance, the best way to get it is to use the tools that I've got to do it. And the tools that I've got are my strengths. Of course, that doesn't mean, if you are a manager of people, that doesn't mean you have to totally ignore people's weaknesses. That's not the point. Sometimes you've got to say to someone, hey, just suck it up and do it. But if you really want excellence, and Kathy, you may want to think about examples from music or sport that you could share with your manager. Whenever somebody excels at anything, it's not because they spent all their time trying to remediate themselves. It's because they've spent a lot of time thinking about where your natural advantage is, and then they've leveraged it.
Paul Cooper asked if can your top 2 be incompatible? Says,
who's that?
Paul Cooper.
Paul! Hi, Paul. Can your top 2... I think Paul's question was, can you get really bad ones? And yes, Paul, I'm afraid your 2 were the wrong ones. I'm joking, with and for Paul. Yeah, your top 2, it's the weirdest thing. Your top 2 can pull you in really different directions. Part of the reason of doing this is so that you can get wiser about yourself. And what many of us find is that our strengths pull us in different directions. So if you're creator advisor, and I believe, Paul, that's what you were, creator advisor. Creator says, I want to sit by myself and really think and really get into the idea. And advisor says, I want to tell you what to do. I want to sort of walk in, dump the theory and just say, this will work, this will work, this will work. And so those things can pull you in different directions. The creator is going, slow down and let me think through what the concept is. The advisor is saying, move, act, be pragmatic. And you'll probably have to, like all of us, you'll have to dial one up sometimes and then dial the other one down, and then vice versa. Wisdom true wisdom is understanding how these very different impulses weave together to create the most effective version of you. One other thought about, I don't know if you've sorted this out, but strengths are not only a source of power for you, but they can also be a source of, I don't know if you felt this, but they can also be a source of resentment for you. If you've got a ton of provider, how many providers? Let's have a shout out if we've got any providers on the phone. Any providers? Give us some love if you got provider. Providers are people who really instinctively think about the emotional well-being of the people around them, and so they're amazing for us because they've got our emotional back, if you like, and they're sensitive to it. They take care of us in a way that's like, I feel safe with you. I feel like you're going to catch me, and you've got me, and you think, and it's a beautiful strength. But imagine if you are a provider, for those providers with the hearts, your standard of what it is to take care of someone's really high. So there may well be times where you look at other people around you and you expect people to make sense of caring the way that you do. You expect the people around you to live up to your standards of it. And you can sometimes feel like the people around you are letting you down. And you might wander through life going, you know what, I need to take care of myself more. That's what it is. I need to take care of myself more. Because I take care of everyone and then no one takes care of me. And so and the same is true of stimulator. For this, how many stimulators we got on the phone? Any stimulators? Give us some hearts if you got stimulator and you're number 1 or you're number 2. Stimulators, I got this as number 2. We can't help ourselves, right? It's like we can feel the emotion going up and going down. And then when we work with people who can't, it's like we resent that. There's a bit of resentment because it's like, can't you see this? Can't you see this? Because our sensitivity to what is emotionally uplifting, what gets people thinking about and feeling about what could be that kind of uplift of stimulators, gosh, it's like our standards that are really high. So it's funny, isn't it? Strengths are a source of great power, but if you're not careful, they can be a source of resentment for the people around you if you're not aware of how they operate with you.
Can I ask about, because Brooke, and people were like, hey, Brooke, she's a creator, and she loves being around people. Yeah. I don't know what her second is, so maybe you could ask. And so other creators were like, yeah, we don't always want to be alone. We like being around people. Oh, creators or stimulators? Creator.
Oh, so Brooke said, look, I'm a creator, and I don't like to be alone. I like to be around lots of people. So that's interesting, right? I don't know what your number 2 is, Brooke. But that would be interesting to see. I don't know what your number 3 is, but that would be interesting to see. Creator doesn't necessarily mean you want to... I'm creator, but I'm on this. I like being around people. Stimulator is my number 2. And so I am pulled, maybe like you are, I'm pulled. It's why I don't have much patience for introversion, extroversion, because it's a false dichotomy, at least for many of us. There's many times when I want to be quiet and process and understand something. And there's other times when I want to be drawn to share whatever idea I have with other people. Maybe you've got advisor as your number 2. Maybe you're creative. It's advisor. It is, creative advisor. So advisor says, we've got to take action that is effective, that gets things done. Well, you need people. So there is, those are Paul's number 1 and number 2 too. So creator pulls you to go, I need to make sense of this. Advisor pulls you to go, let's go make a decision and move something. So the burden for you, Brooke, or the burden for Paul is just to understand both of those threads really well so that you can weave them together into something like really strong and really powerful. That's the point of doing this. How does creator advisor work for you, Brooke? Do they need that time? So sometimes I like being around people, but I need that alone time to rejuvenate. Well, certainly when you look at it, creators do need to marinate in things. I mean, the reason why you got creator as number 1 is because we threw a whole bunch of scenarios at you and you didn't know what you were picking, but you jumped toward a number of those scenarios that allowed you time to process, time to think. And for creators, the world is a crazy, scary place unless we have time to figure out the concept that underlies the complexity of the world. That doesn't mean you don't want to be around people. It means that if you don't have time to do this, your world begins to feel a little frazzled. These strengths can be revealing in terms of your source of power, your source of frustration, your source of resentment. When you start to feel a little like you're not yourself, it may well be that you haven't found your creator the time to stop and think and process. What else we got? Can these change over time? I think actually we've dealt with that. We do retest reliability studies. So when you have an instrument like this, you give people the assessment at time 1. You don't give them the results, and then you wait and you come back after months and months and months and you ask them the same darn thing again, and you see across all the responses whether the responses are the same. And what you do find when you do a retest reliability is you find a great deal of consistency across all of those responses across time. So that's, as I said, that doesn't mean that you can't become more aware of yourself. It doesn't mean you can't learn new skills and have new experiences. You can. I'm not suggesting we're taking a fixed mindset here. What we're of course saying is that you are a person who can grow and develop, but you grow and develop most out of your strengths. You don't grow into another human being.
A bunch of people are asking about which data stuff, like which strength occurs most. Are there most common top 2, least common top 2?
Well, actually, so Mary ran all this data on everybody who took it, and there's a very similar, the distribution is what it's called, the distribution of each strength role across populations, across genders, across races, across ages is very consistent across. And it's designed that way, actually, because, of course, we're not trying to build an assessment that measures gender. There are better ways to measure gender than giving people an assessment. We're trying to measure, regardless of race, gender, age, nationality, creed, whatever, regardless of those things, what is unique about you that you bring. So in a sense, to your question, Paula, what does the data show about the rarest strength? There really isn't the rarest strength. There are rarer combinations, but somebody else was just asking, are any of the combos, how about the strength combos? Yeah, which two come together most? Well, actually, again, the distribution is really consistent across all of the different strengths roles. Someone else just asked whether or not 2 different combos are impossible. Is it just impossible to have provider-influencer? No. We've actually built the assessment so that what we're trying to do, human beings are so beautifully complicated, right? We don't want overly simplistic generalizations about what can and can't be in the same person. You're you, and you're weird, and you're beautiful. And we wanted to build an assessment that allowed any single different combination to occur, because it might well occur in you. And by the way, all the weird and wonderful uniquenesses of you, we want to use these 2 strengths as a doorway into all of that beauty. Look at your kids. How weird are they? Just different patterns of behavior living in the same child. And you're like, wow, sometimes she's like that and then sometimes she's like that. How does that all work together? So no, any of the top 2 can actually come together. What does it mean? Furmom03 says, what does it mean when your strengths are close together? Well, that's interesting. A number of you asked that. Like if you've got 4 or 5 of your top, of the top 4, is that kind of similar?
Them about the ranking page.
Yeah. So the ranking page is where you'll see that. It's the one with the bars, right? If you have a look at that, the bars and the length of the bars do matter. They do signify something. It's an ideographic look at you. It's not really worth comparing your bar that's number 1 to someone else's bar that's number 1. Don't do that. Instead, we're comparing you to you to you to you to you to you across those 9. If you've got one strength role number 1 that really sticks out, that's because every single darn time we gave you a chance to jump during that assessment, to choose that strength role during that assessment, you took it. So that if it really sticks out, that's interesting because it's such a dominant part of who you are. If you've got 4 of them that all sort of look the same length, What I think that affords you the opportunity to do is look at those, a lot of people have that. You look at those top 4 definitions, or come onto the Instagram and see, as Michelle and I dive into those all 9 strengths roles. And then the challenge for you, frankly, is which parts of number 1, which parts of number 2, just read the definitions, which parts of number 3. Because ideally, this is a 14-page report, but it's not done. Ideally, every one of you will add to it. You'll underline which words and phrases really go, oh my word, that is so me. You'll underline the ones where you go, no. You'll share it with someone you care about. And from that, you'll start to write your own. Well, like the first page of the report is your greatest value to the team. Well, you got to write your own version of that. Many of us are going through a really dynamic job market right now, and all of us are going to have to get really good at describing vividly what it is we bring to a team. Well, I would hope that greatest value to a team would be not your end, it would be your starting point. As you try to take these definitions and weave them into an elevator pitch about you. And in fact, if you notice inside the report, you may not have seen this, but inside the report, we've actually put, obviously we don't want to script you, you've got to be authentic. But inside the report, you can see phrases to use in job interviews, phrases to use about you in performance reviews, phrases to use about you when you're just joining a brand new team and someone says, hey, what are you bringing? Because there's a lot of dynamism right now in the workforce, and so you may well be joining new teams, and there may be a huge virtual element to those teams. So please find those phrases. If you've got 4 strengths roles that are very similar, find the phrases that really sing to you, and write your own value statement that says, this is kind of what I bring. And if you want to lean on standout as a source of credibility, do that, because it's going to be such a shortcut to help people know who you really are and what you bring. What else we got?
Do you see Susie Mason?
I had to come up with my leadership principle. It was the exact same sentence.
What I love about that is the importance of creating your own sort of elevator.
Yeah, it's so important here. Myself was just saying, it's so important that, this is not the end of a sentence. Your 14-page report is not like a stamp of you. It is the beginning of a common language. My analogy is that these are the coordinates. If you knew that I was creator stimulator, by the way, you wouldn't know it from looking at me. You don't know it. You might have guessed, I don't know what you would have guessed, but I got creator stimulator. You meet me on the corner of creator stimulator and you'll know some things about me. You'll know how I learn. You'll know how to challenge me. You'll know how to recognize me. You'll know how to have a tough performance conversation with me. You'll know all those things, but you won't actually know what I'm building on the corner of creator stimulator. I've got to write my own greatest value statement. I've got to dive through those 2 words into, what is me at my best? What does that look like? I hope that this standout report serves as a stimulus for you so that when you're in the real world trying to explain yourself to someone, that you're using that language to really vividly show them what's on your corner. Are you creating a trainer certification program? Well, we actually have some of that. It's all me and I love it. Well, I love that. That's great. I would say if you read it and you go, no, that is actually a great and interesting reaction. As I said, Michelle and I did that, where she really wrote big, no. If you share that with someone you care about, that conversation, look, we have time. Try it. You don't have to be defensive. You can just be descriptive. When Michelle was sharing it with me, it wasn't defensive. It was more like, well, I don't feel that. And I could go, well, I tell you what, I see this. And of course, what we're talking about there is good stuff. It's not, no one's criticizing anyone. It's descriptive. What a great time this is right now to have those kind of descriptive conversations. What else we got? Any other?
How do I immediately, that was a good question, apply my strengths roles to life and work?
So the question was, how do I immediately apply my strengths to life and work? I don't see that one go by.
Sorry,
a strength, actually, the proper definition of a strength is an activity that strengthens you. A strength isn't what you're good at, a weakness isn't what you're bad at. Just play with that for a minute. A strength is not what you're good at, a weakness is not what you're bad at. We know that because there are some things that you're really good at that you hate, that drag you down, that has no power, no energy for you at all. What would you call that? Your kids have that too, don't they? Your spouse or your partner has that too. Some things that he or she is really good at that they hate. Well, you wouldn't call it a strength. No, let's call that a weakness. A weakness is any activity that weakens you, even if you're good at it. Let's just use that definition with your colleagues, with your friends, with your loved ones, with your children, with your students. A weakness is an activity that weakens you, even if you're good at it. If you're really, really, really good at math and you hate it, it's a weakness. What you're good at, what you're bad at, that's performance, non-performance. That's performance, non-performance. A strength is an activity that strengthens you, even if you're not good at it yet. So, if you want to use these strengths roles that we measured on Standout and then apply them in the world, I would strongly suggest you use them to start thinking about what are the particular activities in my life that strengthen me? What are the particular activities as my life as a parent, as a colleague, as someone in the community? What are the particular activities that strengthen me? Those are my strengths, and Standout can be a shortcut to that. We often tell people to take a blank pad around with them and just draw a line down the middle, put loved it at the top of one column, loathed it at the top of the other, and take it around with you for a week. And then anytime you see some activity that you lent into and time flew by when you were doing it, you loved it, when you were done with it, you kind of wanted to do it again, scribble it down in the loved it column. And anytime you found yourself pushing it off or giving it over to Tim or procrastinating it, scribble it down in the loathed it column. You can just use a regular week of your life to see what strengthens you and what weakens you. And Standout kind of is like a compass. It sort of it orients you to start thinking about those particular activities that you love and those that you loathe. And if you wanted to know, how do you immediately put this into action? Or somebody else was just asking, how do you use these strengths to support my family during this quarantine time? Well, use those top two strengths as a compass to start going, what are the activities in my regular week? As a mom, as a dad, as a friend, as a work, what are the activities where, I may not be good at them yet. Maybe they're more appetite than they are ability, but what are the ones where when I'm doing them, I feel like that? Okay, we want you to know that as the people that rely on you. And of course, you want to know that. So during this time, try that. Try that love it, loathe it activity for a week and use the Standout strengths roles as your compass to help you really start focusing on the activities that you love, which are your strengths, and the activities that you loathe, that are your weaknesses. Isn't it funny how because we've misdiagnosed strengths and weaknesses, people often end up in entirely the wrong careers because they think a strength is what you're good at. When in fact, you might be really good at something that you hate. It's like being a doctor who hates sick people, but you ended up being a doctor because you were good at pre-med. Or you end up being a lawyer, but you hate argumentation. Well, you became a lawyer because you were good at pre-law. We send a lot of people off into the wrong careers because we've mislabeled strengths and weaknesses.
Universe Rising. Hi.
Hi, Universe Rising.
There's a little bit of confusion. How does it weaken us if we are good at it? I think it's how it takes the energy out of you. It drains you.
Yeah, so the question from Universe Rising was, how can something weaken you if you're good at it? Maybe hit the heart and show me some love. If any of you instinctively know something in your life that you're really, really, really good at that you hate.
Mary Beth was such a good example.
Anything in your life where you're like, I am so good at this. By the way, people annoyingly, they keep asking me to do it because I'm really, really, all these hearts. Yeah. We've all got so many things in our, because we're reliable, because we're smart, because we're responsible. We're good at a lot of things, but we don't have the same emotional reaction to all of those things, do we? That's so weird, but it's true. For me, as an example, I hate mingling. Other than the word moist, I think that mingle is the worst word in the English language. At a party, I get intimidated because I'm trying to figure out how to talk to you just enough so that I can get into the conversation and then say something and then get out of the conversation and then quickly get into another conversation with someone else, but not too quickly that you were first annoyed that I got out of the conversation. And then I'm trying to get into the one with you and the whole thing just stresses me the heck out and it drains me. Now, what's weird about it is I'm really good at it. I am so good at mingling that if I was talking to you at a party, you might actually think I liked you. Which, I'm sort of joking, but you certainly might think I'm liking it. You might look at me and go, he's extrovert, he's a wooer, he loves it. I don't. I hate it. So that's one example, Universe Rising, of I'm really, really good at this and I never want to do it again. Okay, why is that? Well, that is a weakness, an activity that drains the living daylights out of me. And I'm wicked good at it. Every single one of us has a natural and unique emotional reaction to the activities that we fill our week with. You think about it with your kids, if you have them. You see your kids, some kids are really good at subjects, but you can see they are bored out of their minds. And it's such a shame in schools. I know some of you are teachers on the call. It's such a shame that we don't help children really early start to speak the language of their life. We don't help them learn the language of strengths. And so we grow up, we get to be like 40, 50, 60 years old, and nobody has ever told us that our emotional reaction to the events that we fill our life with is really meaningful. And that if you've got something that you're really good at that you hate, I'm not saying you never do it again. I'm saying that's real. And if you need to take responsibility for your life, you will know which activities drain you. By the way, a little trick on this. I'm invigorated by interviews. I love interviewing people. I love one-on-one conversation. Like if I had my way, we wouldn't have all these people on the phone. We'd have like one of you. I would just be looking at you. It would be you. And I wouldn't be talking. I would just ask lots of questions and I would shut up. And I love that. And so for me, because I know I love that, when I go to a party, I've taken that strength and I've applied it to my weakness. So at any party, I just take 3 people. I pick 3 people. I deliberately pick them and I put them against the wall, as it were, and I interview them. Half an hour, and then I leave. In a sense, I take my strength and I use it to mitigate my weakness. So it's not like I don't show up to the party, although I don't actually like parties, but I do show up because sometimes you have to, but I'm not like whining about it. One of the ways I think I am being responsible as a human is I understand what strengthens me and I try to apply it in areas that weaken me. I bet you do the same. I bet you have some things that really invigorate you and then you'll use it to mitigate the downside of something that drains you. And if you don't, then maybe you could use the standout results to help you start thinking about that. It's like creator for me is I love just talking to you for hours about you. And if that's energy for me. Well, I can apply that to a situation like a party. Now that doesn't mean I've changed, by the way. I haven't become a new Marcus. I haven't, mutated into someone who loves mingling. And by the way, there's nothing wrong with mingling. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I mean, some people are brilliant at it. I am saying, though, I've become hopefully a more intelligent user of some of the things about me that are relevant to me in my life. So, sorry, long answer to a short question, Universe Rising, but that's kind of how a weakness and a strength actually play in people's lives. What is it about interviews? What do you like about interviews? Well, this is part of, like, somebody else was asking about how do you go deeper in this? One of the most useful questions you can ask people that are on your team or ask yourself is the phrase, does it matter? Does it matter if? Does it matter when? Does it matter who? So if you take an activity like interviewing, for me, this is how I took creator. This is just how I took creator, which was a static definition, and I dove deeper into it. I took creator, I did sort of that love it, loathe it thing, and I ended up with I love interviews. And then to go one step deeper, you go, well, does it matter who? Does it matter who I'm interviewing? Does it matter what I'm interviewing them about? Do I just like interviewing? And it turns out, that there are a few does it matter answers. If you're not very good at what you do, I don't want to interview you at all. If you're really struggling emotionally with something, I don't want to interview you at all. And that sounds bad that I'm saying that, but I realized I love interviewing people that are really, 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 really good at what they do, about why they love what they do. Like, I love that. And it doesn't matter what the job is. If you're a brilliant housekeeper in a hotel, I am riveted by you. Like, my very first job at Gallup was interviewing these amazing housekeepers at Walt Disney World. And to hear these housekeepers talk about what it is that they loved about what they did, I wish they could have gone on for days to hear how they arrange the little toys on the bed in a scene and why the last thing they do before they leave a room is lie on the bed and turn on a ceiling fan. And the reason they do that is because that's the first thing a guest does after a long day out in the theme parks. And so the idea that they see the world instinctively through the lens of the guest is like, that's so cool to me. Maybe not to you, but I'd rather interview a really amazing housekeeper than a really bad president of a company or something. I wouldn't be a good therapist because I get dragged down by other people's problems. Should I be a good therapist? Well, there's no... I hope part of the reason of doing Stand Out is there aren't shoulds. Let's quit shoulding on each other. Well, you should. Well, you should. Well, you should. There's no shoulds. You are who you are. Try and make the greatest possible contribution through the strengths that you bring. So that's why I like interviews. I like learning the really gritty, vivid detail about why someone is an amazing housekeeper. That's like, I love that.
There were a few questions that popped through about how to avoid labels and stereotypes, and I think it's related to what you're saying, that the two, I'm a connector simulator, it's going to manifest itself too.
In different ways. Yeah, I'm going to take that. Let me just take Jenna. Jenna just said, nowadays we're told to think outward. We are told to discourage or discouraged to look inward. That's super interesting. I believe you're right about that. We are told to explain who we are through outward influences, through maybe the way that we were brought up, our biography, or the way in which we were, the work situation that we're in, or the outward world right now. You know, it's all this stuff is going on, and so we're told to look outward for explanations. And yet, wherever you go, there you are. Wherever you go, there you are. So to begin to explain how you move through life by understanding that wherever you go, whatever situation you're in, there are certain recurring patterns of who you are that you bring with you. And it behooves you to know what they are. It's like the whole idea of the unexamined life isn't worth living. Well, the unexamined life is one which you can't really own and contribute. No one is going to make the dent in the world that you will. And you won't make that dent unless you take responsibility for how you draw strength from life, which activities bring you power, which activities lift you up. Those are strengths. If you don't own them, no one else will. So Jenna, I would hope that we do so much more in schools and so much more at work and so much more in relationships that start by going, learn to be a really wise speaker of your own language. Otherwise, people are just going to talk to you in theirs. That doesn't mean yours is right. It means yours is yours. And so you're going to make the greatest contribution in life if you can figure out how to share it with others. Labels, right? Michelle, that was your question, right?
Well,
labels.
Yeah. I think it just can be related.
So one quick thought on this. We didn't do the 9 strengths roles so that you could end up being labeled. We did it so that you could have a language. Any more than the letters of an alphabet aren't labeling. You can make any word you want, if you like, from the letters of the alphabet. You've got these 9 strength roles. When we built StrengthsFinder, we did 34, which was cool. It's just that then it becomes kind of difficult for everyone to learn everyone else's language. StrengthsFinder is amazing as really a tool for you to think about you. When you start thinking about connection on teams, connection in relationships, connection at work or at home, you kind of need a language that everyone can learn. From that language, though, we can then describe the vivid detail of a particular human's life. And so one creator stimulator is me, and yet I bet someone today has creator stimulator, and you don't look like me, you don't do what I do, you haven't focused your career in the same way, but that creator stimulator is a beginning. It's a good beginning. Think about these 9 strengths roles as a beginning to have great, I mean, if you didn't see this, we just filmed ourselves the other day, just having Michelle's reaction to Connector. And I put it on Instagram for you can see it on Instagram. And that's a real conversation between two people who love each other and know each other, but it's pretty rich actually to get into the detail of how the heck does Connector manifest in my shell. Okay, we've got to talk through that because that's kind of cool, and that's where my shell will feel understood, but also she'll be able to take more responsibility for contributing it. I would hope you would use Stand Out in the same way.
Really quick, because you probably want to wrap soon. But
yeah.
Some people are doing this with teams. Ask how many people are.
How many people are doing this with teams? Can you show some hearts, some love on? Is anyone doing this with a team or a group of family members? Yeah. Anyone doing it in teams?
It was a good question about, is there a good simple activity to do from now to next Friday? Because they're joining you every Friday.
So one of the questions I think was asked, is there anything that we can do between now and next Friday? One of the most wonderful things to do on a team is to sit in your team, or to do it virtually, obviously today we would. And then you just go around the room, if you like, and the one person has identified and highlighted all the things about either their greatest value statement or one of their top 2. And they underline the words that really sing to them. And then you just go around the room and each person says 1 or 2 times, situations, moments where you've seen that play, where you've seen that behavior. So to begin with, it's a really lovely affirmation activity where each team member goes, yeah, I saw that. Remember that time when, and you go around and each team member says, yes, I saw that. And that's how I can rely on you. So you just do that activity. One person identifies the particular phrase or phrases that really sing to them, and each person on the team goes, a moment, a time, a situation, an activity where you saw that. That's a wonderful thing to do, team by team. And then if you have time, you can identify some of the statements in that greatest value statement or top 2 strengths where you go, no, I didn't resonate with that. I didn't resonate with that. You can come back around and each person can identify those statements. And then it's just interesting to go around the room and hear the reactions. Because you'll get sometimes where people go, you're right. And there'll be other times where somebody on the team or some people, plural, on the team will go, no, you don't even know you do that, do you? And it's not in a bad way, it's like in a good way. You don't even know you do that. And then you'll go, wait, what do you mean? And then they'll go, remember that time you did that? Remember that time you did this? So those 2 activities, when we used to do this, we would budget like an hour. And it's funny, I don't know how big your teams are, but those things can go on all morning. So maybe budget 45 minutes for the first time you do it. Go around where you're just identifying those things that really sang to you, and then do it again. And the next time you do it, identify those things that really didn't sing to you and get people's reaction around the team. Okay, we are at 12:53. So I think what we'll do is see any other questions that are coming through that, yes, we are also connected as people. Wow, yes, we are. And yet sometimes we feel so distant, don't we? When we are speaking to people in the language of our creator and they're responding in their language of advisor and we go, so in the spirit of that,
so really,
next,
really quick, people are asking if these Friday sessions are available so they could get their team up to speed. I think Meredith is sending them to community people that are on the community. I think she's emailing.
Oh, right. So some of you are asking whether or not these live sessions can be distributed to your team or made available. We do have a community where we are making sections of these lives available to our community. If you want to join the community, get updates of things that are going on, you can go to marcusbuckingham.com and there's a thing there that says join the community. If you want to get some updates from these live sessions, just join the community and then we will...
For 24 hours too.
Oh, yes. Yeah, and it's up for 20, this whole thing is up for 24 hours. 24 hours if you want any of your team to come on and dive into this in any more detail.
Just explain what you're doing on Instagram.
And then moving forward, over the next few days, we've already done 3. We've done advisor, we've done connector, and we've done creator. And then over the next, I guess that would be, what would it be, 6 days, we're going to do the remaining 6 strengths roles in detail. And by in detail, I mean we're going to post a 60-second definition, and we're going to post a longer deep dive into how equalizer, how influencer, etc. Really manifest in the world. So if you want your team to get fluent in this language of strengths, then please come back onto Instagram every day and you can dive back in. And obviously we'll leave that up for a wee while. Next Friday, please come back next Friday if you're interested in how these strengths play in relationships. We are who we are in relationships, aren't we? And the best relationships aren't the perfect combo of top 2 strengths. There is no perfect. There is no perfect combo. The best relationships are one where you know that the person sees you for who you are and doesn't want you to be different. They see you for who that you really are, and they want to help you live most fully and contribute most fully through who you are. It doesn't mean you won't have conflict. It doesn't mean that you won't sometimes get frustrated with each other. It just means that you're going to have the most generous explanation for the other's behavior, and the most generous explanation is that person was living out of their own strengths. So if you want to come back and dive into relationships and that part of it, then we'll come back next Friday and dive into that. And in the meanwhile, if you want to learn more about each one of those 9 strengths roles, just come back onto Instagram every day and we'll dive into each one of them over the coming 6 days. All right. If you want to join, somebody said community email, please. If you want to join the community, then go to marcusbuckingham.com, right? And there it is. It just says join the community. And all that means is we'll just keep you updated on all sorts of stuff. And we will be sending you various clips and excerpts of these lives if you think that'll be useful. Oh, one last thing. If you want to see more of something, please let us know on these lives or in comments. And if you want to see less of something, then please let us know on the comments. All right, we are almost at an hour. Thank you ever so much. We'll see you all next Friday. Beautiful. Hi, Tim.